You're not getting McDonald's Happy Meals. It's like, bleh, here's my shit, internet.
Don't be a dick. Don't be a dick.
I have here one of the most talented people in the city by far. I have a writer, actor, author, fashionista, comedian, musician, Sarah J. Storer.
Hello.
Welcome to the ThaGawdCast.
Thank you so much. Wow, that is an introduction. I didn't even know I did half those things. So,
well, if you didn't know, now you know, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, the first thing that I want to ask is I ask everyone this question. Have you ever looked on your social media feeds, on your friends list, Instagram, Facebook, or whatever, and looked at these people and wanted to know who in the hell are these people that are following me?
Yeah, this literally happened to me yesterday. Somebody popped up in my Facebook timeline, like with a wedding photo, and I'm like, I don't know who you are or why I care about your wedding. I did not unfriend or unfollow, though, because that felt socially irresponsible.
Yeah.
And that's how fucked up our world is.
Yeah. You know, it's fine. You can mute them. I've started doing that a little bit more often. Yeah, it's like, I don't know this person and they are talking reckless. So I'm just going to put them on silence for like 30 days and we'll see if they're better after their time out. But yeah, that is the purpose of this podcast. I looked, it was like a year ago and I was like, who are the hell are these people on my friends list? And I was like, you know what? I'll just start finding out who they are. And I'll just start actually asking people to see if they want to talk to me. So I've actually had the pleasure of meeting you in person several times. And I have, obviously seen you perform. You're a fantastic improviser.
Thank you very much.
I guess probably the first question I want to know is like, how did you get into comedy?
I was 3 years old, and I don't know. I was always that kid that like I loved when my parents had people over because I was like, yes, it's my audience. But I didn't really actually get into theater until college. So I went to a super small Christian school. We didn't have like a lot of theater programs or ways to do stuff on stage unless we had written some terrible sketch about Jesus. And then in college, I just had this really wonderful professor that trusted me a couple of times with roles that I could really sink my teeth into. And that's when I was like, oh, I really, really like this. And then I took my first improv class around 2003, I think.
Okay.
And that's been my jam. So I've done like a lot of other stuff. I've done storytelling, done a little bit of stand up, done some musical comedy, but improv's my baby, man. There's something magic about it.
Well, that is really cool. I mean, I do agree. There is something magical about every time you do an improvised show. Like it's going to be something new every time. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be, there'll be no repeats. And yeah, so doing some of the stand up and I am familiar with some of the one woman shows that you have done, which I thought were really cool. Like, was it Master Dating? Is a fantastic name. Songs in the Key of D.
Yes.
The graphic design for that is it's top notch.
That was Kenny Greer, man, because I was trying to design something and I was like, it just wasn't working. So I literally went to Kenny. I was like, Kenny, can you like put a dick in this? And damn, he came through. Like it was just beautiful. And then some people would like, it was so well done that people were like, do you know that looks like a dick? And I'm like, I do. Yes, thank
you. I had a great laugh at that. But yeah, no, that is fantastic. And, what I've kind of learned through some of the one woman shows, you're obviously pouring a lot of yourself into these things, be it through dating or your upbringing, that type of thing. It seemed like there's a really heavy themes in there.
Yeah, part of that was just to like work through some of my own shit, stuff that I was dealing with at the time. and get it out. It was part therapy, but also, I don't know, maybe I'm a little vain.
Sure.
I wouldn't do like a show by myself if I didn't like myself. Um, so yeah, I mean that's part of it too. But yeah, just to kind of like work through stuff and get stuff out. But not like I don't want the process to like happen on stage necessarily. Like I had to have already been through those things and sort of reconciled it in my mind to then be able to do a show about it. So lest anyone thinks I'm up there and, it's like you guys paid so you could be my therapist is not quite what I intended. So hopefully that's not what happened.
No, I don't think so. I think that's really important because we, co-on buddies, we always joke about stand-up comedians. There's a difference between stand-up comedy and therapy. You might want to actually see your therapist before you do the stand-up, comedy.
Right. Yeah.
Because it can sometimes get a little ugly.
Well, and you can always tell which like stand-ups those are. Like it's like they're seeking some sort of weird approval instead of like, I'm going to lead you through this thing that I experienced and there's going to be some great punchlines in it. And the ones that are still working through shit is like, here's my punchline. Do you still like me? Like, do you think I'm a good person? Like, it's like, a few more steps yet, pal.
Going into the stand-up and just the comedy as a whole, like obviously you are a co-founder of Columbus's best-known improv company or comedy company. How did that come about? Like, how did you, go about laying the groundwork?
So yeah, we all met in a class, like Face Club did. We all met in a class, all sort of like fell in love with each other and enjoyed each other. And maybe a couple months after our first performance, we're still enjoying each other, all that good stuff. We thought maybe we should take this seriously. Like we could actually like make a couple of bucks off of this if we worked really hard at it and we acted professionally. So that was really kind of, I don't think we knew that it would grow to this point, but I think that was the first step for us was that we're going to conduct ourselves like we are a big deal. So like our shows start and end on time and we're very polite to our venue owners and we conduct ourselves like this is a legit thing that you're seeing, even if our skills didn't match that at the time. And
Sure.
That's really served us very, very well to, we started out as sort of this ragtag bunch, which like hands down, we were not the most talented or the most funny or whatever. But what we decided to do was like, you will know a show of ours when you walk in the door. And that really set the groundwork for us for later. And I think the second thing is that, at least for me, I was always willing to have it just be this part-time thing that built. And then 2 years ago, it built to the point where I was like, I really think I could like for real make a go of this full time. And I was able to do that for 2 years. And then the world went into the shitter. But I'm still like so proud of what we were able to do and it was really an 8-year course that we were able to do what we did. So I guess if there's any advice out there for anybody who wants to do the same thing, like it's not going to happen overnight for sure, and be okay with that.
Sure. Well, what do you think would be some of the common mistakes, that you see others when they try to, take their comedy or hobby or whatever, and then trying to then, turn it into, like a business?
I think this is less a mistake and more of a mindset that you just have to learn. And this is something my business mentor had always told me, but until you experience it, you're like, oh, he's right. So I think one of the things you really have to learn is that 90% of the work is done off stage. Maybe even 95% of the work is done off stage. Your stage time is always the payoff. Everything else is the grind. And by the grind, I mean, making sure that your emails are professional, setting up behind the scenes email templates so that when people email you, they get a series of emails to you, making sure that you have systems in place so that things run smoothly, bringing good people around you so that you can delegate stuff, dealing with assholes, like all of that is seriously, that is what the work is. And then you get like an hour on stage a week where you get to fuck around.
Sure. Dealing with assholes is It is a skill. It is definitely a skill. That's I don't know if you do you learn that, or is that just innate dealing with
Oh
assholes?
man, I think part of it is learned. For me, I've had to learn to be. I'm very much a slow burn type of person.
Yeah.
But when I hit my limit, like I am done, like done, 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 and I will cut shit off.
Yeah.
So I've just had to like learn like what that balance is, so that it's not so long of me like letting somebody be an asshole, be an asshole, be an asshole, and then I'm like, fuck off, done. You know, there is like that in between point of like, hey, let's address this behavior right now. Like maybe somebody doesn't know that this is the way they're coming across. Though sometimes you still do have to have that time of like, peace, I'm done with you.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, that is that weird in between, that is the awkward part, Do they know? And then you're like, you know what? They do know that they're an asshole.
Yeah, some of them really don't though. And then that always is like an interesting thing of like, is the asshole gonna double down on the assholeness when they're called out on it? Or are they gonna use this moment to like evaluate and change? And I would say it is maybe about 70-30 of the double down versus the actual wanting to change.
70-30. All right, fair enough. I'll extrapolate my data and see if it
That's pretty
matches,
good.
if it matches up. So you had touched on it before, hashtag getting the theater their own performance space. And then of course we have, COVID-19. So what is the status of that? How are things going with the performance space and all of that?
So we don't have anything definitive to tell anybody.
Yeah.
What we can say is this still is happening. We just don't know what that looks like anymore. And I will say for us, we have two priorities. One is to be a really good partner to the building owners. We know that like we were in a really interesting position, right? We weren't really paying rent yet. We had basically only signed a lease. So we know that there's some things that we need to do to be really good partners with these great folks who have chosen to partner with us over the next, 5 to 10 years or longer. The second priority is safety, period, for our cast members, for our audience, for our students. And the last thing I personally want on my conscience for the rest of my life is that I was like, I want to like make butt jokes on stage and 3 people died. Like
Right.
as much as we need humor and we need comedy, it is to me much more important that we establish an environment where people can come in and not be at risk, just because they want to like fuck around on stage for 25 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's really weird. I'm curious to see like what this whole thing looks like 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months from now. Like, because this is just so weird.
We're very, very lucky with the position that we were in when all of this happened. Things would have been very, very different if we had, built all of this momentum. We opened our doors in June, exciting, exciting, exciting. And then if this happened in July, like it would have just been a very different scenario for us. So we're in a good position with that, but there are so many people that just aren't.
All of this shit is weird. My daughter's going into first grade. And so now, like, do I want her to go to first grade now? Do I want to homeschool? Like, I don't know, like what the fuck to do. It's all fucked up.
Yeah. I mean,
fucked up right now.
I would say for me, as far as the schooling thing goes, I'm really lucky right now to be at Columbus State, they have been showing an abundance of caution. So literally all of my classes this summer have been online. Like even my labs have been online. It's going to be the same thing for fall, but I'm also an adult who enjoys being by herself. Like,
Sure.
my brain is not still developing, and I don't need like those crucial times of like learning facial expressions and learning emotional intelligence from my peers. Like I personally don't need that from the classroom, and I'm really curious about how that is going to impact our kids for the foreseeable future, because they're going to be missing some really important milestones, but also like maybe we shouldn't make classrooms into giant petri dishes of disease. I don't know.
I'm really curious about like the whole like psychological
Yes.
element will.
Yeah. I had a friend where we did like a responsible, socially distanced walk with her and I think her daughter's 2 or 3. So her daughter's wearing like this little teeny tiny, like, I shouldn't even say it's adorable, but adorable, like little baby mask. And at
Yeah.
some point in the walk, the mask just gets lost, right?
Yeah.
It's not on her face and it's gone. And, she's 2 or 3, doesn't notice that at first. And then, like 20 minutes later, she was an inconsolable mess because
Yeah.
all she's been taught at this point is like, if I don't have my mask, I'm going to get really sick and that's going to hurt. And like,
Yeah.
I can't imagine, like, these are such formative years that's already in her brain. Like, oh, I'm going to get sick and this is going to hurt me. Like, this, to me, that's insane. Like, how is that going to play out over these kids' lives for the next
I
20, 30
I
years?
I know. I don't know. It's so weird. It's so weird.
On a less like dire level, like my grandparents, who I don't have any anymore, they all passed almost 10 years ago, but they all lived through the Great Depression and they were children during that time. But the way that affected them later, like, I mean, my grandparents, the things that they did with money and the way that they felt about waste, and like literally my grandfather was like, you're not getting McDonald's Happy Meals because we're not paying extra for a toy and you never eat the fries. I mean, stuff that like as a kid I didn't understand, but now looking at all of this, I'm like, no, I get it. When you don't have food or money at a very formidable time in your life, you're gonna like make decisions based on that for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Absolutely. I had a friend, it was a similar story. He had talked about like his grandparents, and his grandmother she used to use tea bags, and she would like reuse them over and
Man.
over and over until the tea was, water again. And it was based on that, just going back to, and so, yeah, I don't know. My daughter, she's going to need therapy. And, I know that you had announced a big career change, moving. I don't know if we're putting comedy to the side or however you want to put it, but I know that you are now getting into nursing.
Yeah. So this sort of came about. I have very much had an existential crisis being labeled non-essential during the shutdowns, which I totally get. I understand. But again, like I had devoted literally the last 2 years of my life to building what I had built. And then suddenly just not being able to do it was a mind fuck for sure.
Sure.
But I was just sort of joking with some friends about like what we would do during the apocalypse. And I was like, I'd be the medic. That's me. Like, I don't care about blood. Like, let me tie off your blood spurting leg. I'm in it. And then the next day I was like, no, I could actually really do this. And as I was thinking through it and really sort of evaluating like what is important to me in the work that I do, and really what's important to me is helping people and making a difference. And I know that sounds so cheesy, like with comedy, but I get to see that happen in our classes all the time. Like
Sure.
see somebody on night 1 of level 1, and then when they graduate and get to see the difference that makes in their lives is really cool. And that's what satisfies me about comedy. And as I was thinking about it more, I was just like, I don't ever want to be in a time period of my life where like I can't personally help move the needle to help people in a real and a tangible way. My grandfather was a doctor. My grandmother was a nurse. I have another aunt that's a nurse. And I had actually looked to going to get my master's of science in nursing back in my mid-20s, and it just didn't pan out. And I was like, why don't I try this again and just see what this process is like? And so, yeah, once I just decided that, like, this is something I could do, I just did all my research. I figured out, which program is going to get me the highest degree possible in the shortest amount of time. And I kind of went from there. So I have a bachelor's and a master's in marketing and communication. So as you might imagine, science curriculum is not a big part of those programs. So in making this decision, like literally my sprint started immediately because I had so much science and math and all of that stuff to take before I could even start my programs.
Like how daunting is that? How, easy, is it to kind of just shift gears in that way? What was the most daunting part of it for you?
The, whew, So the most daunting part really has been all of the steps that I need to take to be eligible to be in my program. So I've been conditionally accepted into the program, but they're like, here are all the things you need to do first. And it's a mountain. It's just a mountain to climb before I could even get to the point where like now I'm actually learning how to work with patients, all of that good stuff. So that's been the most daunting part. I really have zero doubts about the nursing program. I know it's going to be a lot, but I'm in there with other people who are exactly the same as me. So they've all had other careers in their past and they are making a complete pivot into nursing. So we'll all have very different backgrounds, and this is all very new to us. So yeah, that's been the most daunting part. But as far as like shifting into this new mindset, I think for me, when I really pinpointed like why is non-essential like bothering me so much, and then figured out like what is the solution to that, that there's been zero doubt in my mind, truly, like zero doubt about like what I need to do and how I need to be useful, not just for the next couple of years, but for the rest of my life. And then from there, I think that's just the way my brain works. Like, it's just like, okay, done deal. I got this.
If laughter is the best medicine, then there won't be a better nurse on the planet than yourself. So cheers to your new career move. One of my favorite things, Sarah, that I enjoy doing, and you can talk to all of my friends in Face Club, I love unearthing people's old blogs. And so, you talk to Tori, Nick, Candace, I love unearthing people's blogs. And so I don't think I put that in the beginning, that I now am talking to the naked redhead.
Oh, Lord.
How did that come about? How did that come about?
God. So remember how we were talking about like your performance should not be your therapy? That is what that is what I literally am like sweating, embarrassed right now. That is what that blog was just like truly a way for me it started out to just be anonymous and like get shit out. So I got married very young, got divorced very young. That sort of caused some ripples in my family and with my faith and all kinds of things. And I just felt like I've always been somebody who's enjoyed writing. I just felt like I needed an outlet to get that out. Now, of course, one can do that privately in a diary. And I was like, what is a blog? This is cool. So yeah, please do not find or read it because it is literally like 26-year-old Sarah like working through some shit, and nobody needs to hear that.
Yeah.
But I will say, here's what I will say. I got into it. I got into blogging at a very good time where like what I ended up being able to do with the blog is it did get pretty popular. And so I started having businesses come to me to say like, how can we do something, how do we start a blog, blah, blah, blah. So that actually led into the next phase of my career for like the next 10 years. So I will never begrudge it for that. But like, there are certain times in our lives that we should never revisit. And that is one of them.
Well, that is fair. If you don't want to revisit that time in your life, you do not have to Google the naked redhead. So
How is that even still up? I thought I took it down.
Well, look, I'll have you know, the ThaGawdCast doesn't skim on research. Okay, we have a crackpot staff here of one man who digs to get all the good questions there to without having a conversation with you prior to. How else can I interview random people on my friends list? We got to dig deep. We gotta dig deep.
This is like Jerry Springer. Da, 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 da. This is your blog.
Here's another skeleton from your closet.
What a time. I mean, it was such like a weird time of blogging because that's what it was so much was people just like, here's my shit, internet. And it's really changed so much now where I think it's more curated, like you get like a glossy image of everybody, but like I literally still have friends from that time that I just met, through the blogosphere that like we were all just messy as fuck. That was the MO. That's what you did. So yeah.
But so that is kind of like a theme, going from, obviously the blog and then, the comedy. And as it touched on some of the one woman shows, there's been a lot of comedy in the joys and pains of dating that has seemed to have been kind of an overarching theme there. And throughout this journey of dating, you were voted one of the most eligible singles in the city of Columbus.
You want to hear the really embarrassing thing? That happened twice, like 8 years apart, because I just keep being single. That is a true story and a real fact.
A few years from now, we voted the most experienced single in Columbus.
I like it. Yes, I'm down for that. I think that's better than like eligible. And the last one, they used like a weird word to accompany it. And I was like, I don't like that word because it made it sound like I was like a super athlete and being single. Like that was the word they used. And I can't remember what it was, but I'm like, come on, y'all. Like, do we have to like be like this about it? Come on.
So how is that, right? So I didn't know that there were two championship trophies of being single in your trophy case. How does that work? Does that draw additional attention, or is it unwanted attention? Especially since you said that you are an introvert. Like, how does that work?
I would say the first time it did draw some attention for sure. I think the second time just sort of less so, but that also just might be my attitude towards it. I don't know. I don't know. I literally made a New Year's resolution. I'm not even kidding. That I'm just done. Like I'm done. I'm done. I'm done with dating. I'm done with men. It might not happen for the rest of my life. And like my default now is no. Whereas for the first like 20, years of my dating life, I was like, maybe or yes. Like I cannot wait for this to happen. And now I'm just like, maybe it's just not even maybe. Like it's not gonna happen unless somebody is like, no, I'm this for real, I'm gonna make this happen. It's not happening. I'm not making any effort. I'm done. Does that sound sad?
Well, I was reading a similar, like it was like a blog, and the lady was saying, it wasn't a blog, it was an article, and she said the complete opposite. It was her season of yes. And so you now have a season of no, is that you are, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. No is the default.
No is the default. I quit online dating, which I never really enjoyed anyway. I felt like, for me, and I think that this does tie back to being an introvert, right? Like, we walk into a bar and you make 100 different judgments if you're single, looking around for like cute people. And you do that literally in a matter of seconds. And you don't even think about it because it's just automatic. It's just happening. But in online dating, like you're quantifying that with like a swipe or a message. So now all of a sudden those 100 things you would do walking in the door of a bar are literally 100 actions that you're taking. And for me, that ended up just being exhausting, like saying no and saying yes. Was almost exhausting. And I'm like, this is not where I want my energy to be anymore.
Well, that's fair. Online dating does suck. I am single. I'm doing the online dating, and it is, you match up, and then it's like the weird small talk, and then it's like, do I? Yeah. So,
and like that's not the way it should be. Like it should be fun. It should be exciting. At the very minimum, to like meet somebody new, and because you can learn something from everybody. I think that is true, but like. It really does suck the joy out of that. And I pass.
So speaking of other things that I dug up, we got the blog, and I want to make sure that I'm correct here. This may or may not be true. How to be dumped, the definitive breakup guide.
Yeah, I still make a little money off of that thing.
This is a book that you have written. Tell me about your your past, or I guess current as an author.
Yeah, that was I had like a really, for me it was just like a bad breakup. I don't think he gave a shit, but for whatever reason that that breakup like hit me hard. And like I didn't understand what was because I'm not normally like I don't typically struggle with depression or different things like that. And I just remember like waking up every day and it was like a physical pain that I was going through, along with the emotional stuff, and I couldn't shake it. Like, I just didn't understand what was going on in my body and in my brain. So I just started doing a bunch of research on like why might this be happening. Turns out there's like a lot of great research on it. There's a lot of great research on like the grief process and how that can affect us physically. So I decided to take all of that and just combine it into a little ebook, make some money off of it. And like I haven't made significant amounts of money, but I still like make a couple bucks here and there. And it was again a way for me to like work through some shit and
Sure.
profit.
Ooh, very suffer pain, write about it, profit.
Yes.
Well, that is, and so that kind of goes back to, I think I talked about it earlier, like your, I feel like your writing, your comedy, it's been like a very public journey through like your own personal empowerment,
Mm-hmm.
or personal growth, which is really cool. So I guess with that being said, because there's no better segue to this,
Oh no. I'm
if
so
you could go
nervous
back,
now.
no, it's fine, it's all. But if you could go back in time 5 years, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh man, just to my younger 5 years ago self.
Yep, just five
Okay,
years.
5 years.
Can't start from scratch. Just 5 years
No.
ago.
You'll be fine by yourself.
Okay.
That's it.
All right.
Yeah.
You just know is what you would tell yourself 5 years earlier. Just know.
Just know. You'll be fine by yourself. Yeah. I think that that's a theme for me actually, and kind of what like the theme of like choosing my no as a default for dating is that like that's something that I think I've always really struggled with. Like, am I okay by myself? And anytime I've caused myself any sort of heartache or turmoil, it's because I'm fighting that, and not really sitting with that. So yeah, I think that might be advice for like all of my younger selves. You will be fine.
As far as improv, I've been doing it for a year, and it's extremely fun. It's really challenging, but in my opinion, there is nothing more difficult than musical improv.
Mm,
And you have seemingly mastered musical improv along with the TBD. The it's a if you haven't seen this before, anyone who is listening, it's not just breaking out in song, and here or there for a bit. It is a completely improvised musical comedy, and it's one of the most impressive shows that I've ever seen. How did you get into that, and like how do you make musical improv seem so easy?
I mean, I like everybody else. I was just very impressed with Wayne Brady and what he could do on Whose Line. I thought that was really really cool. So I think this is almost 5 years ago now. I still had not seen an improvised musical, but I'm like, I bet I could research tropes of musicals and put together a framework that would work for improv, and then figure out how this all works together. So that's sort of where like my actual practice of musical improv started. And I think what I've learned for it, and how I teach musical improv in my classes, is that it really can be extremely simple. And the more you try to like get in your head about how difficult it is, and you're just going to be bad at it. So I think what I figured out is like song structure itself is actually super simple, super simple. There's two basic parts to every song, a verse and a chorus. Uh, the best choruses literally written in the world are the same phrase repeated over and over. All you need is love. All you need is love.
Yeah.
All you need is love. Love is all you need, right? That's what every great chorus of every great song is. And then typically a verse is 4 to 8 lines. And like once you know that structure and you've sort of like embedded that in your body, rhyming is all practice, and you can feel it in your body, like where a song needs to go and when it needs to go there. Part of that is just learning, part of that is practice, and then part of it is just like the love of being able to sing or be any character that I want, which is my favorite thing about TBD. Because like if I went to Broadway right now, I would not get cast for 95% of the roles I've been able to play with TBD. But yeah, I mean, I can teach anybody how to do musical improv, and it's a very fun thing.
Oh, it's very cool. It is very fun, extremely enjoyable to watch. If you are in the Columbus area and you have not seen TBD, you are missing out. So definitely check for that. I think that you're extremely talented. You're absolutely hilarious. What is your comedy DNA?
Oh man, I don't know that like this is gonna sound terrible. I don't know that I have it as far as like in my family. Like my dad loves to laugh, and he has like the best laugh, and he loves to laugh at like really silly things.
Uh-huh.
I think I just sort of I came out of the womb with just like a lens of humor. I think I can find humor in just about anything, but I don't have like a
Sure.
particularly funny family. Um, I think I was just always the ham. And then, and this still makes me sad to this day. I fell in love with Cosby's work when
Yeah.
this is probably like early 2000s, just like going back and listening to everything again. Like just, I fell in love with what he could do. And then I also discovered Whose Line pretty early on. And
Yeah.
that quick, like just the quickness. And that's something I've always enjoyed got me in a lot of trouble as a kid, but like, I've always loved like that quick and clever. How can you be quick and clever? So I think that's
Sure.
kind of like maybe my foundation. And then I don't know. I really admire now the people around me, the people in this city that are doing good work, that are really talented. That's always extremely inspiring. Sometimes like I get mad because they're so funny. I'm like, God damn it, that was so good. I wish I had done that.
Since you are the consummate professional, what makes you break on stage?
Um, Not a lot. I really try to stay in character, but we were just talking about this the other day, a very memorable TBD moment where a lot of times in TBD people just die, and that's just sort of like a fun thing for us. And it was the end of the show, and like people just kept coming on stage and like meeting their fate. Like literally as soon as they stepped on stage, somebody was killed with a machete and someone else was killed with like a weed whacker. And so we're all falling dead to the ground, and like that was so ridiculous. Like it was literally 8 people shaking with laughter on the stage, and I'm like, I can't. I'm not going to stay in character as a corpse right now because this is just the stupidest shit that's ever happened.
Right.
And that's typically what it is. Like if it's like really stupid, like if somebody
Right.
just does something really stupid, I'm going to have a really hard time. And sometimes that's even me. Like, oh, that shit that came out was so stupid.
I've never seen. I've been around music a lot, and I've never seen a ukulele in a store. I just always see talented people. They have them and they play them. After you like reach a certain level of just like being talented, you just wake up with a ukulele next to you?
It's under your pillow when
Yeah.
you wake up in the morning.
Okay. Yeah.
So for me, I started classical piano lessons when I was 4, and
Uh
I
huh.
took them for a total of 17 years. I took a lot of piano lessons. So that's my jam is piano. Like if I'm going to perform somewhere, I want to be able to perform with a keyboard. But I don't know if you know this, pianos are very heavy and not very portable. So this was probably about 4 years ago. I'm like, I got to do something where I can like take shit with me. Guitar has just escaped me. Like it just, I'm like, I don't. This is too many strings, and this neck is too fat. So I bought my first little yellow ukulele. I think it's like at like a music go round for like $40. And
Okay.
then there's this really great little app called Musician, which listens to you play and teaches you all the chords. And so I learned the chords in a couple months. That all you need are 4 essentially. And that's how I learned to play. And then the other nicer one I actually got at like a music store. And that one can plug into a sound system because it's very
Ooh.
fancy. Yes.
Oh, that's very cool. I did not know that you could actually plug a ukulele into anything. And I also did not know that you had to transport pianos.
Yeah.
Growing up watching Looney Tunes, I thought they just fell out of the sky wherever you happen to be. So,
That's usually how it works, but
yeah,
yeah, it doesn't work like that anymore.
between falling pianos and quicksand, those were two of my
Yes.
biggest fears growing up. I didn't know.
I'm still afraid of quicksand.
Yeah, I literally it was definitely during COVID. I don't know the difference between um 2 days ago or 30 days
I
ago
don't
or
either.
like last week. Like I don't know. It might have been earlier today, but I actually watched a tutorial on how to get yourself unstuck out of quicksand while I
Smart. I
was
should do that too because you never know. And the
I was
only thing worse than drowning by water is drowning by sand.
I think that you have a fantastic sense of style and fashion. It seems to be very important because I know that you have like your it was an Instagram page like dedicated to fashion in style, and can we talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I would first say that like I'm not actually that into like fashion, I guess. This was just like a way to like have fun, I guess, with clothes, which I guess is
Uh-huh.
what style is.
Yeah.
Um and yeah, I enjoy like mixing and matching things. I always say that my style is a little bit like that I want to dress like a boy, but all I have are girl clothes. And that is my style. So I love like the mix of like masculine and feminine and
Yeah.
playing around with those things. And I love like finding unique pieces within sort of that genre of things, um, and fucking around with it. But I will also say, like, especially now, I'm literally wearing some Adidas slides and
Uh-huh.
some sweatpants. And I don't know if I've showered today because I don't remember anymore. So, like, it's balance, I guess.
Yeah. It is balance.
Yes.
I assure you, I have not showered today, and
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I will tomorrow. I'm working from home. I
All
just,
right.
we'll figure it out. Maybe we won't.
You do
Um,
you.
I know that you've been doing recently with the hashtag talks, doing the empowering cultural creativity and some of the other things. I know that you've had a few people. My homie Brock Lesnar
Yes.
was on there, and then of course the talented, intelligent, gifted Karen Marie.
Yes.
They so. What was the idea behind this? I think this is a fantastic thing where you've been giving very important, diverse voices, kind of like a platform and a space to kind of to chop it up. Like, what was your thought process behind that?
This was hashtag talks was, and we hadn't really even named it that, but just sort of an idea that we had over the shutdown when we were trying to figure out, like, our show's helpful for people right now. How can we still do stuff and get our name out there? And then it sort of never really materialized. And then when everything sort of went down end of May, start of June, I was like, why don't we resurrect this and actually give a platform to people who are not us? Because that's something that we are really working on doing better with at our company. So improv is a team sport, but it is also largely a white sport. And
Yeah.
it's really hard to see yourself in something that has a lot of white faces if you are not white. So, there are other initiatives that we are taking both behind the scenes and things that we're going to be implementing in our business. But I thought that this could be just a short interim step where we could show that we are listening. That if somebody wants to give us ideas and they want to give us their time to like share those ideas, like let's do that, because I think we're in a really cool time where people want to hear that. People want to learn. When I had Dr. Erica Pryor on, that was one of the things she said. She's like, what is your audience? Who's tuning in? And I'm like, a lot of it is white folks who just want to learn. Like they want to learn.
Yeah.
And this is a way that they can listen and hear and maybe implement some of the things that we're talking about. So I don't know how long the project is going to go on. I obviously, like, my time is a little like accounted for a lot of the times, but yeah, it's been super helpful for me. I've learned so much, even just in the way that things are phrased, or been challenged on some of the ways that we've conducted our business in the past, that really came from a great place of good intention, but still was harmful. And I think that that's something that, like, white folks we're gonna have to wrestle with for the rest of our lives. So it's one small step, and with a lot of the episodes, we've also raised money for other projects like the Kaleidoscope Youth Center and the Columbus
Nice.
Freedom Fund. So yeah, just a way. I think my phrase really throughout this year is move the needle. What is a way that we can move the needle? And this is just one small way to do that.
Really appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to pitch before we wrap?
We're offering our first storytelling class coming up next Tuesday. If people want to sign up for that, they can find that at #comedy.com. Otherwise, like, donate your money and your time to be part of the solution, y'all. I think that that's probably really important right now. And that's it.
Thank you very much for your time. And thank you for anyone who is out there listening to the ThaGawdCast. You could be doing anything else in the world, but you have taken your time to listen to me, chat it up with Sarah. And for the ThaGawdCast, I am The God Show. I am with Sarah Storer, and we are out.
Bye. Thank you.
Peace out.
Can't stand the
I know you
thought
have
of
a
walking
test that you have to do, and you branded it for 1 point, for 1 point.